Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Chenjerai Kumanyika. He's an assistant professor of communication studies at Clemson University. Hi, Chenjerai.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks for joining us. Cincinnati officials have finally made progress in the case of an unarmed African American man named Samuel DuBose, who was killed on July 19th by Officer Ray Tenzing. Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieters released body cam video footage of the encounter yesterday and announced a murder charge against Tenzing, who's due to make his first court appearance today. Mr. Dieters did not mince words, saying the killing was, quote, totally unwarranted. He added, quote, it's an absolute tragedy. In the year 2015, that anyone would behave in this manner, it was senseless. Tenzing, who was an officer with the University of Cincinnati when the incident took place, initially asserted that he felt his life was in danger as DuBose began to drive away. The footage, which clearly undermines that claim, was withheld for days while DuBose's family demanded its release. Ahead of the release, Cincinnati city officials said that they were bracing themselves for riots. Well, Chenjerai, I know that body cams for cops have been criticized as a solution against police killings, and clearly it didn't stop this policeman from killing Mr. DuBose, but it seems to be critical in at least starting to hold the policeman accountable. What do you think?
Well, I think this kind of video footage is important because it allows us to, give families the tools that they need to combat police departments who collaborate with officers to lie about police murders. What we've seen in so many cases, including Walter Scott in my home state of South Carolina, is that without this kind of footage, we're unable to get indictments, and the victims are subject to, more character damage after their death. But the conversation that's emerging in the Black Lives Matter movement leans away from putting more resources and oversight power in the hands of police departments that have proven themselves to be corrupt time and time again. And instead, what people are pushing for is comprehensive community control of the police that would involve civilian review boards with hiring, firing power, and the ability to make a wide range of transformative decisions.
The GOP attacks against Planned Parenthood continue as two new videos by a right-wing organization are released. Republicans are lobbying a multi-pronged attack at the Women's Reproductive Health Organization. Florida Governor Rick Scott yesterday called for an investigation of his state's Planned Parenthood clinics. What is being targeted at the federal level is the $500 million in federal funding that the organization gets, which doesn't even fund abortion, a crucial service for women who can't afford such health care. The funding instead covers routine health screenings that are also aimed at women in underserved communities. The Washington Post this morning identified the three women that the Republican Party has pushed to the forefront of its attacks on Planned Parenthood. They are Senators Joni Ernst of Iowa and Deb Fischer of Nebraska, and Representative Diane Black of Tennessee. The vast majority of the opposition to Planned Parenthood is still vastly male and white. Meanwhile, supporters of Planned Parenthood are mobilizing their support of the organization by organizing a series of rallies. Chenjerai, how disgusting are the Republican tactics on this hot-button election-grabbing issue?
I mean, the attempt to spin this edited video is really absurd and transparent. Planned Parenthood saves millions of women's lives and is a relentless advocate for women's health. I mean, 1 in 5 women in America benefit, including over 800,000 in California. You have Planned Parenthood providing birth control to more than 600,000 Californians each year. So this is what these people are rallying against. And, let's also be clear, people like Joni Ernst, Deb Fischer, and Diane Black are the face of a much larger patriarchal and horrible agenda.
And finally, the Bureau of Investigative Journalism has released an explosive new report today on the U.S.'s drone wars. Based on a 6-month investigation, the report explored what it called an intersection of corporate interests and global surveillance systems. It found that a cluster of companies have made money supplying imagery analysts to the U.S. military's war on terror. The Bureau identified 10 private contractors to which the U.S. government outsources the processing of footage obtained from surveillance drones deployed around the world. One source told reporters, when you mess up, people die. The report was released at the same time as Afghan officials announced that U.S. drones had killed 20 suspected members of the Islamic State in Nangarhar province, and Yemen declared that U.S. drone strikes killed 5 suspected al-Qaeda militants on its soil. Chenjerai, it shouldn't surprise us that the U.S. military is outsourcing war to private companies, right? There's a long history of this going back to the Blackwater controversy during the Iraq War.
That's correct. In 2007, Blackwater killed 14 employees of a Blackwater company killed 14 civilians. And, until recently, killings like that were protected by the Coalition Provisional Authority Order number 17. So when we look at this, just the scale of this use of contractors, approximately 1 in 10 people involved in this effort to process this drone data and things like this, we have to ask who's really making decisions about who's surveilled and who's considered a target. The Pentagon is telling us that they're somehow increasing efficiency. It just seems difficult to believe that government is going to be able to keep track of all these ISR decisions and really maintain any kind of democratic control.
Chenjerai, I want to thank you as always for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Chenjerai Kumanyika is an assistant professor of communication studies at Clemson University, and he is our daily Newsflash guest expert on Thursdays. This is Uprising. We'll be right back after this break.